Ministry of Finance engages youth population in ongoing budget consultations. This story and more in the National Report.
Do you know that you can lower your electricity bill by using energy-saving bulbs? CFLs and LEDs use up to 75% less energy than your traditional bulbs, and they even last 10 to 25 times longer. Over time, consider switching to more energy-efficient CFLs and LEDs, which can help lower your electricity bill. As an individual consumer, I cannot impact global fuel prices. However, I can ease the burden of rising fuel rates by using energy-saving bulbs. What can you do?
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
With the details to the news for Thursday, 22nd September 2022, I am Abigail McIntyre. Youth unemployment, funding for small businesses, access to land for farming, affordable housing, and better health care. Those were some of the topics embraced by youth representatives in the ongoing budget consultations designed to get input from every sector of society. The consultations are designed to provide an overview of Grenada's economic performance for the first half of this year and the prospects for the coming year. It is also designed to explain the budget process and solicit the views of stakeholders. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, Norman Gilbert, believes for the issues to be addressed, there must be a working partnership between young people and government.
We believe that it's a very important point that we can gather some important information that would feed government's presentation. And I believe that with today's consultation, we'll have a number of recommendations and suggestions coming forward that government can probably give consideration to, enhance the delivery of services to young people. The ministry has been providing services through the Ministry of Youth, but of course, youth is not just within the ministry, it also cross-cuts through all the various sectors, including agriculture, social services, education, etc. So it would be very important to hear what they have to say, and we are very happy that we are able to bring over 150 young persons together today of different walks of life.
During the session at the Youth and Cultural Center in Grand Anse, groups were formed and each was given the task to discuss areas of government's transformational agenda. At the end of the discussions, they presented their collective ideas to the finance officials for consideration. Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Siobhan Britton, said it's about hearing what the youth has to say.
In the throne speech, the Governor General will have listed all of the areas that government would like to focus. It's very extensive. But the 5 overarching pillars are citizenship empowerment, economic transformation, environmental management, institutional rebuilding, and foreign policy. So that's the overarching pillars, but there are areas such as poverty reduction, infrastructure development, climate resilience, and development in our youth, skills capacity training, all of those that fall under those umbrellas that government would like to focus on. But the consultation is really about getting concrete measures that government can implement now. We know what we want to achieve, but we want the public to really tell us how to help us figure out how to do that.
Projects implemented by the Climate Smart Agriculture and Rural Enterprise Program, also known as Sept, are being examined by its financial donors who are conducting their midterm review. The financing agents are also discussing a new project where $10 million in grant funding will be made available to the government of Grenada to implement various projects. In Carriacou, funds can be used to address the reforestation issues on the island, among other things.
Because we know in Carriacou water management is crucial, given when we talk about climate change, Carriacou is at the forefront in terms of water availability, and therefore water management becomes a more crucial factor for Carriacou. And when I say Carriacou, of course, PT Martinique also. So we're looking at having discussions with the Permanent Secretary, Chief Agricultural Officer, and other officials to look at where the remaining funds should be going. Also interesting, in Grenada, part of the program has been supporting youth in small business development, providing grant financing. So there's initial discussions in Carriacou, so how that program in fact could be also adapted to Carriacou with its special conditions.
Sept Project Manager Byron Campbell. A Sept team is currently on the Sister Isles accompanying representatives from the International Fund for Agriculture Development, also known as IFAD, and the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, as part of the midterm review. This will determine to what extent Sept programs have been successful and assess their sustainability. Mr. Campbell believes this review is timely.
This midterm review, the government, the new administration will have an opportunity to determine to what extent for the remainder of the project that the project can respond to what the government determined its own agenda. And that's very important in terms of particularly the transformative agenda. So we're having discussions with government officials, policymakers rather, and beneficiaries also, and decision makers to determine how exactly should the project be going forward. So for example, in Carriacou, we're looking at the Limley farm, for example, which is a government-owned farm, in a collaboration with the UNDP to look at how this farm could be a model for livestock development. We're also looking at how we rehabilitate the ponds and wells, because we understand that this is a priority of the Carriacou administration. So how we're able to respond to this. The roads that we do in the farm access roads like Dumfries and others, to what extent they are still relevant, and in fact the project should be going forward.
To date, Sept has been able to implement a number of projects on the Sister Isles, including constructing farm access roads, grant financing for small businesses in the areas of fishing, agribusiness, livestock development, and water management, as well as providing CVQ certified training.
There's always room for improvement. We could do better, and this is why we're doing this midterm review now to determine where the bottlenecks, where the delays, how can we improve this. Now in Grenada, for example, we have a Ministry of Mobilization and Implementation, and this ministry, we are informed, we had a meeting with the minister, the team from IFAD had a meeting with the minister, understanding that this ministry is there to look at the bottlenecks, where you have delays, how can they help, how can they intervene in the first ministry if it's happening there. This is a good thing, because what I find is that the issue is not so much the availability of financing, but how fast you can use the money. And that is also a factor for Sept. We're not using the money fast enough. We don't want to lose it at the end of the project, that's the point. So this midterm review will show us and point us to how we can more efficiently and effectively, of course, because you want results. So for example, in the CVQ training, whereas we have trained hundreds, I think to date about 400 young people, we have created jobs for 150 there, but not enough, so that's what we count in, how many new jobs are created.
Grenada is among several countries in the Caribbean that is being visited by the United States naval ship Burlington, the 10th Spearhead class expeditionary fast transport ship, which arrived here this week. During its mission stops, the team undertakes maintenance on combat ships operating in the region and performs theater security cooperation engagements in an effort to build partnerships. GIS, along with other local media houses, were invited aboard the ship on Thursday morning. Douglas Cassavant is the captain of the USNS Burlington. He said they are enjoying their visit to the different countries.
So far it's been wonderful. Every country that we've visited, all the people that we meet, fantastic people, and the trip has been very productive, working with the different countries in exchange programs and things like that. Very beneficial to both the countries we visit and for the ship.
He said the ship's missions are diverse as they can provide a number of services.
It's a very unique ship. Our ship is different in that it can change its mission very quickly. So the capabilities are everything from moving armed troops and things along that line in a military situation, to natural disaster relief, evacuations due to natural disasters. In the past, I was previously captain of a sister ship to this one. It was also assigned to this area, and we brought, similar to the hospital ship, just on a smaller version, portable field hospitals and medical teams. So, very much a part of and the same as the Comfort mission, Enduring Promise, where we bring a smaller team in field hospital with medical personnel and to smaller countries or smaller ports there that don't have the capacity to take the larger ships.
Members of the Special Security Services, SSU, were able to engage with the USNS crew. Officer in charge of the military detachment on board USNS, Christopher Martinez, explains.
Part of our mission here today was enhancing our theater security cooperation with the local Royal Police Force. So we had on board today was the Special Services Unit. We went over active shooter drills, tactical team movements, how to clear a room if there is a potential shooter. So they went over security drills. I think we just hope to gain a better perspective of specifically with the security drills that we did today. We learned a lot from what the training that the local police go through, and they learned a little bit from us, so kind of enhancing that overall collective mind on how to tackle a situation and just increasing our partnerships.
The ship is expected to leave the island on Sunday, September 25th. This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break.
Prepare for hurricane. Prepare for hurricane. Make sure you have your radio and your batteries too. Waterproof flashlight candles will do. Tin stuff, garbage bag, first aid kit. Come on people, make sure you have it. Clean water in a container and a hurricane plan. Hear me no man.
Hurricane damage is beyond your control. Surviving the aftermath is up to you. Have a hurricane plan. It can save your life and your family too.
Prepare for hurricane. Your hair, prepare for hurricane.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Honorable Dickon Mitchell says young people can play a crucial role in achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The Prime Minister was having a dialogue with Senior Director of the Global Partnerships and Initiatives, Hashani Damadasa, during the Unlock the Future of Learning high-level multi-stakeholder event. The event seeks to boost outcomes of the Transforming Education Summit and provide a platform for young people to build education systems that are inclusive of all. SDG goal number 4 speaks of inclusive and equitable quality education and promotion of lifelong learning opportunities for all young people. Honorable Dickon Mitchell, Grenada's youngest Prime Minister since 1979, believes that leaders need to set the bar for the younger population if nations are to achieve the SDGs.
I think young people are critical to the success of the sustainable development policies, and they must play a central role in the implementation of the targets if we are going to make it for 2030. And I think as leaders, the onus is really on us to ensure that we encourage and provide the enabling environment to ensure that young persons can feel empowered and that they can feel that they can propose solutions that can actually solve the challenges that we collectively face, but more importantly, that they will face in the several decades ahead. So, and I'll give an example. I mean, in my government, we actually have 3 ministers who are under 30. We've got the youngest minister in the Caribbean, who's 23 years old when she was made a minister.
Also important, Prime Minister Mitchell said, is the need for education that goes beyond the structured education system.
It's also crucial for us to remember that education isn't confined to the formal education sector. And so it's important for us to recognize that non-formal education is just as important, and we need to make sure that we encourage that so that young persons, particularly for small islands, for example, your sense of identity, your pride in your history, your traditions, your culture, these things uniquely define you. And we should ensure that young persons are educated in those aspects as well.
Prime Minister Mitchell used the panel to encourage young people to take action if they want to achieve their goals and realize their potential as change makers.
Take action. The truth is, if you make a difference, even in a small way, with yourself, with your communities, collectively it causes a ripple action. And you may start off thinking it's just a small act, but you never know where it will end up. And I can perhaps use myself as the best example. I've not been in public life or political life for more than 10, 11 months. I made a decision summer of last year to get involved in public life and to join a political organization And by October 31st, I became the political leader of the organization, and 8 months later, I became the Prime Minister of my country. I'm saying this to say that little actions, that little step, that first step, that act of courage or faith actually truly does make a difference. And for particularly young persons, I think it's important to recognize that if you don't act, you will not make the difference in your own life and in the lives of others.
Residents of the Mount Rush housing scheme welcomed the opportunity to meet one-on-one with government ministers and representatives from the Housing Authority of Grenada on Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. The delegation comprised Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph, Attorney General and Minister for Legal Affairs, Labor and Consumer Affairs, Honorable Philip Tellisford, Minister for Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs, Honorable Andy Williams, Minister for Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation, and a team from the Housing Authority of Grenada, including manager Mr. Ronnie Sylvester. The team toured the housing units and witnessed firsthand some of the issues faced by residents. After the tour, an open and frank consultation was held with the residents, where all sides were able to share their concerns. The primary concern highlighted by residents was ongoing maintenance issues in the interior and exterior of the residences, including unresolved water seepage. Also flagged was the issue of inadequate garbage disposal receptacles. On the part of the HAG, the main concern was the high delinquency rate in monthly payments for the units. The delegation and residents concluded the meeting with an agreement to work together to address and resolve all issues in the shortest possible time. All parties also resolved to work together towards the enhancement of the neighborhood. And that story brings us to the end of the National Report for today, Thursday, 22nd September 2022. Recapping the top story, Ministry of Finance engages youth population in ongoing budget consultations. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Abigail McIntyre. Thank you for joining us.